the enemy tanks have stopped.
Why?
Why waste precious tanks when they can pick us off from the air like fish in a barrel?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to BCD Squared, Bad Catholic Dads, Books, Cinema,
Yes,
Digital,
there you go.
Episode 3. It's great to have you here.
Nice.
My name is Derek Rogers, along with the most awesome person in the world, John Perez.
Whoa,
John,
that's high praise. Hey,
high praise indeed.
dude, how's
Hey.
it going? How's it going?
It's going really well. It's going. Listening to that intro kind of brought back, like, I started, like, getting PTSD, getting a little bit
gosh.
reminded of what that movie was. For those that don't know, that was a trailer from Dunkirk, the recent Christopher Nolan movie. So before we jump into that, John, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I actually have to turn off my fan because it's still on and I totally forgot about it. So kill time for a second.
Okay, kill time. We want to remind you that we changed the name for the Bad Catholic Dad Squared from Book Club Discussion. We changed it to Books, Cinema, Digital, so it's still that BCD thing that everybody loves, and it's covering all of our bases. Because we don't want to just cover books, and we thought movies and video games and other things.
Yeah.
A few people have asked us to just do certain things like that. So if you have any questions or comments or reviews, if you think that there's something interesting that you want John and I to speak about, send it over to badcatholicdads@gmail.com.
Yes.
So John, the fan's on today. I will tell you what, it is so humid over here.
It's bad today.
Because last night, we were supposed to record this, and last night you had lost power.
Yeah, it rained I don't know about you guys. We had some torrential downpour over here.
We did
bad.
too. It was crazy. The streets were all rushing water, and my kids were excited because they all just wanted, can we put on our boots and go out on it? And I'm like, I don't know, you might drown.
Yeah. We went to mass last night because we badly needed it, and it rained really bad once we were about to get out. So I had one by one carry them to the car. So they it was crazy. It's crazy.
That's a nice late. How did the kids do for a later mass?
Fine. James just wanted to run around. So
Okay.
I had to kind of keep him busy, but then eventually I was like, all right, I guess we gotta go to the back, and we went to the back. And then we had poop explosion because when I got back to the pews,
the holy craps! Yeah,
my wife and my daughter were gone, and I was like, where'd they go? And then I looked at the car seat because she was in the car seat, and it was just poo everywhere. And I'm like,
in the car seat?
In the car seat, man. Have you? Speaking of explosions, have you had any explosions with Isaac there yet?
With Isaac?
Or not yet.
Not.
Has he baptized you guys yet, or not yet?
No,
because I know he's getting baptized soon, but I didn't know if he baptized you guys.
No, he hasn't.
Oh,
it'd be
man.
weird if he was starting to talk I baptize you in the name of the Father. Son. I'm glad he hasn't done that to us yet.
Yeah.
But Isaac. Blaze never really got us either with that.
Dude, that's awesome.
He we've talked about before. He's almost drowned himself, but he hasn't hit us.
You've had
I
explosions
think he's got
before.
Bethany. Oh yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say man, you guys are the best parents in the world if you've never had experience.
Yeah, we just tighten those diapers. You put duct tape around one
seriously.
up near the top, and that's terrible, man. That's like coming across a murder scene. I know, in the BioShock games, that story is told by the environment and atmosphere. So you're like, where did my kids go? And you see, and there's this poo explosion, and I know what happened now. That's interesting. Well, good thing you dodged that bullet, man. It's better being in the back with your son running around than sitting next to your daughter having an explosion.
Nice. I went to work yesterday to fill out some paperwork and to pick up my paycheck because the first one's always live, and then after that it's direct deposit after that. But our chaplain, shout out to you, Father Thompson, he asked me to stop by his office after I finished all my paperwork because he wanted to chat with me and kind of get to know my talents and what I can offer to campus ministry and stuff like that. And it was funny because he was talking about, because he knows I have a youth ministry background and everything. So he was talking to me, and he was like, do you know how to play guitar and sing and stuff like that? And I'm like, yeah, I kind of do. And he was like, all right, because I need some people to play guitar and sing for mass. Here you go. And he hands me a guitar, and he's like, you're going to have an audition right now. So I'm like, what? And he's like, what can you play? A little Matt Maher, Chris Tomlin? I was like, all right, I guess I'll play some Chris Tomlin or something. So I played How Great Is Your God by Chris Tomlin. And he's like, all right.
What, just from memory?
Yeah. And he was like, all right, you're hired. I'm like, all right, cool. What? So not every day your chaplain asks you to audition to play for adoration and mass. It's so funny though. He's a great guy.
Like, when was the last time you played guitar and like sang like that?
Gosh, it's been a while. Like when I was in youth ministry, like before I went to teaching, I would play all the time for like retreats and stuff like that, and play for mass. Like especially in college. When I was in college, I was in the choir and I played guitar. So yeah, it's been a while. It's been a couple of years, but I think I should probably dust off my guitar and start playing it.
Leading mass is no joke. I mean, it's pretty intimidating. You have to be like 100%
He was
focused.
like, we do Matt Maher's Mass Communion. I have the CCLI license and everything. I can get you everything. I'm like, all right, sweet, let's do it.
So how often do you have to do that?
I don't know. I hope not every week. That would be kind of crazy, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, because good for you, like doing that, because I know, like, just because that's currently all that I've been doing. So I'd be like, if someone auditioned me, I'd be like, oh yeah, no problem, let's just do this.
No,
But you, great job for just like not picking up for so long and just on the spot.
I mean, the funny thing is, like, I have like so much experience playing music, especially for mass or for retreats or for adoration or whatever, that it just kind of like it's secondhand to me.
Yeah.
But no, it was definitely funny. Like I was like, I haven't done this in a while, so I was sorry for what you're about to hear. It was really funny. But no, I'm excited because during my interview, I was just like telling them, you know, they're picking up their campus ministry program. And so for many of you don't know, campus ministry is basically like their youth ministry version, but in high school. Like, you know, they have like retreats and stuff like that. And I was telling them, of course, like I'm open to like helping on retreats, giving talks and stuff like that. So they're really excited to have me on. And I'm excited to be there. So.
That is so awesome. Well, I mean, I think there was all these topics we just spoke about was a great segue into our movie review, because we talked about flooding water, we talked about explosions, and we talked about music. And these are three elements that play a lot into this Dunkirk movie. So do you want to jump into this and talk about
Let's talk about some Dunkirk. When did you watch the movie? It's been a while for me.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that too, about like what the circumstance was when you watched it. I think I watched it before you, right?
Did.
Like,
you definitely watched it. You watched it like opening weekend, didn't you? Or something?
No, I don't think, because what was going on was I had my junior high work camp that I was leading, and then it was, I forgot what day of the week. I'm like, you know what, because I have to stay on site and, you know, like doing all this stuff, and I'm like, I just need a break from everything, so I'm going to go out and see the movie. And
wait, during junior high work camp?
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
That's awesome, dude.
Like at the evening when I was, you know, I should have been getting, it's because I had to wait. I have to make this slideshow and wait for all these videos to be uploaded so I can make a slideshow for the end of the program. And I was going to be waiting until 9 something for it to come. And I'm like, while I'm waiting, I'm just going to go see a movie. So a couple of my friends, we decided to go see it in the 70 millimeter, the IMAX, whatever, in Tyson's. And so I was like, kind of on a layer of stress, and I saw it with those two people, and awesome. That was our situation we saw. What about you?
I was either I was coming from the interview of where I got my job, or I was coming from the same place finishing up my first set of paperwork to be hired from them. And I was on my way home, and I called the house because my brother-in-law and my father-in-law were watching the kids, and I called them and I was like, hey, what's going on? Is everything okay? Do you need me to come back now? And they were like, no, they're just sleeping. So I was like, all right. I texted my wife and I was like, hey, I'm going to go see Dunkirk because the kids are sleeping. And she's like, all right, that's fine. And so I went by myself.
You're like later, loser.
So yeah, my wife usually likes to watch movies with me, but sometimes I'm just like, I got to go, especially if I'm going to do a review on it. And that was the thing too, because I didn't get to see it with my wife. The thing that stinks, though, is that I missed the first 5 minutes of the movie, so you'll have to fill me in on it again. So
yeah. So it sounds like your situation, you had just gotten through your interview, so you didn't have that much stress on you at that point. Mine, I was under a lot of stress when I went to go see the movie. And so that might have played out in how I felt about the movie. Like, so I'm going to preface like the way I felt about it.
Super interesting, yeah. Okay.
Now, when we're going to talk about this movie, we're going to have, I don't know, light spoilers, I guess you would say, because we're not going to say specific things that happen. I mean, I think you're going to get most of what we're saying from the trailers.
It's funny because like you can't really spoil the movie because it's historical facts. Well, not the movie itself, but the movie that's based on, you know, it's like a historical event. But yeah,
exactly. So, so initially, like, I don't know, do you want to go over the overall thoughts or your favorite parts of the movie? Because I will say, like, when I went in there, the theater was packed.
Oh, nice.
And
when I went,
it was mostly, I don't know, people in their, I don't know, my age and then higher. There wasn't a lot of kids, even though the interesting part is while I was going through this, junior high work camp, so many of these kids and a lot of the high schoolers that had helping me during this program, they had all seen it with their families.
Oh, wow.
And so this is a movie, because the rating is PG-13 and it's cool to go see a war movie. So many like students had seen this movie before I did. And they're like, it's the best thing ever. And I was like, oh cool.
No.
All right. I'll go see it. And again, whenever I hear high schoolers saying it's the best thing ever, I'm a little bit like, well, we'll see.
Dude, you're right. You're right. Yeah, you're totally right.
These middle schoolers are probably also saying Emoji Movie was the best thing ever. So I'm a little bit cautious. And so that was me going into there, where it was a packed house. The sound was cranked to 11, which was nice. I usually enjoy that. Yeah. And that was the situation. Was yours sold out, or how was this?
So I went in the middle of the day, Derek. And I haven't been to the movies in the middle of a weekday.
It's such a fun thing, John.
So long, Derek. And like, honestly, when I went, it was all like seniors and older people with me, which was kind of really cool because
it's a respectful crowd.
Yeah,
I love that.
But that too, but also like, I felt like you were saying, like you were stressed, right? Because of junior high work camp. And that definitely played an emotional level to you watching this movie. Well, for me, being like a history major and being someone who like loves history, spent 4 years studying history in college, I really love the movie. But I'll say this, having like older people with me like made me appreciate the movie even more, because I kept looking at all these older people like there's an old elderly gentleman sitting like 2 seats right next to me, and for some reason I just kept like kind of looking at the screen and kind of looking at him. And for some reason, I was like, man, like, I bet you some of these people, served in either World War II or Vietnam or something, and I was just like, it gave me a sense of, I guess, pride, even though this historical reference or this historical, movie wasn't about Americans, but it was still about, this war and how, eventually, us Americans came into it and wrecked shop, basically.
So watching it with an elderly crowd is an interesting thing, because my friend Charlie and I went to go see Hacksaw Ridge, and it was a situation very similar to yours, where there was a lot of older people who were like, they would have either had experience possibly in serving, and so we were sitting there, and like with Hacksaw Ridge, you've seen that, correct? There's some scenes with Andrew Garfield and his girlfriend in the beginning, and there's like funny lines and quirkiness. Charlie and I would laugh at, at the moments it's appropriate for laughing at.
Right.
But the way the crowd was, we got shushed right away.
Oh, wow.
Like for laughing. And we weren't rambunctious in laughing. It was just like, I feel like it was a healthy response to the scene, And I was like, oh, okay. And then something else, like next, that was on our left side. On the right side, there was this older couple that's like, where is that? Have we seen that place? And like, they're talking back and forth. And it was like, okay, that's fine, because they're older. I don't care. But this other couple right next to us, after they had shushed us, we were still watching, and then there was another scene where it was just funny, and we laughed and we responded, and they got up immediately and they walked 3 sections like in front of us and sat, and I was like, whoa. And I felt so bad, because I don't like movies being interrupted for me. I hate disrespectful kids when they see a movie and they're just laughing, or they're bringing out their phones and they're really being a distraction. Yeah. But on the other hand, when there's like a big, like you've seen Star Wars movies like this too, where there's explosion, everyone's clapping like during the movie, like, like that's awesome. And I felt bad. But at the same time, whenever I go into a crowd that has older people, I'm afraid to try to enjoy the movie and laugh, or just be like, just normal stuff. It's not anything.
That's interesting. So
I was, that's happened to me before, and it bothered me that happened, where I'm like, I can't really enjoy a movie in that crowd. Whereas I've been in some younger crowds that have been really entertaining and helped amplify my experience of the movie.
Yeah, I think, sorry.
Well, and so I think one of my just getting into it, and it's tied in with what you said you missed. One of my favorite parts of the movie was right in the beginning, how they're like introducing everything, and that's when the first time you hear the theme coming in. And when they were he did a really interesting story, laying the ground out, what Christopher Nolan did for just the beginning, because one of my least favorite parts of this whole movie is the fact that I didn't know anything about the characters, but the way they introduced the story, I was very interested in. Mm-hmm. And the beginning scene kind of lets you know, without no one introduced themselves or anything, that you're just following right along, like you're dropped right in there, and you have no idea what's going on. I really like the way that they had kind of sold the situation, how these, the English and the French are completely surrounded.
Sure.
And they're trying to get out. And I think they did a great job with that storytelling.
Sure.
But, and the crowd seemed to be really into this movie as well, which helped me. And the music, and that's like the thing that I'm going to kind of get in with one of my favorite parts is this music was so it was so loud, and it was not letting go of pushing this movie forward and the emotion, because they had that, what we heard in our little trailer introduction with this episode is that ticking clock. And it did remind me a lot of the Dark Knight Rises that Nolan did with Batman. And the soundtrack was so oppressive to me, where it was just like, it was like that, and it kept going the whole time, and they would rise and have it fall, and it was unbelievable. It was its own thing. And I'm pretty sure it's Hans Zimmer that did the soundtrack.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that really was just, again, I went into the movie stressed, and that soundtrack was like,
that's awesome, dude.
It was amplifying that kind of feeling. I appreciated the soundtrack in general, but it was so intense. And I don't remember one like that. We recently watched The Shining, and it's very reminiscent of The Shining, because it makes you feel like uncomfortable and very driving forward the whole time. But, along with me not knowing some of the characters, like I didn't know any of these characters. I didn't feel attached right away.
Yeah.
That kind of, carried me on for the rest of the movie. But I'd be curious on what some of your like opening impressions were of the movie, and like what was some things that stood out to you right away.
So the funny thing is, Derek, I mentioned in the beginning, but I totally missed like the first, I don't even know, a couple minutes maybe. I came in when the guys were on the beach, and they were like, spoilers, they were on the beach obviously, and they were getting attacked, and then what's his name, Bane's character,
Tom Hardy
was in the plane, and he was with his buddy, and they were shooting people down.
Okay.
So that's kind of when I came in. So for me, it was such a different experience watching. I want to say like I've never had an experience like this watching a movie like this, because when I came into it, Christopher Nolan, who's one of my favorite directors of all time, I'm so used to his movies, and I'm so used to the way he does things and the way he kind of tells his stories. It's almost the same and familiar, but it's almost different every single time. Like I'm sure you've seen many Nolan movies, like Inception and Interstellar, and of course
Memento,
and of course the Dark Knight trilogy and stuff like that. But this one was totally different from those movies, especially like kind of just the meat of it. Like in the beginning, I didn't have those attachments to those characters. The thing that I had attachments to, Derek, were like the whole entire, I guess, troop as a whole. Like, all those people, all those soldiers trapped on the beach. Like, I wasn't like, man, I hope this guy survives, or I hope, this guy survives. I'm like, I hope they all survive. Like, that's me, And when I was, I especially love the scenes, of course, with the civilians coming to the rescue. I really enjoyed anytime they were on screen. So yeah, for me, missing the beginning, I felt like hurt me a little bit, because the movie is so jarring that it gives you, for those who are unfamiliar, it gives you the same story, but from like different points of view. So you'll have like this character's points of view, what's going on, and then it'll jump cut to what's going on at the same time, but from a different perspective, and it was jarring. And if I didn't have the historical reference of like, okay, I think I know what's going on, like I think I'm good, because again, I missed the movie in the beginning, so it didn't really set the tone early. But yeah,
I really think though, you missing the beginning, like what I was saying in the beginning too, is like they just drop you into it where you don't know, you're just following these characters, where I don't feel like you missing the beginning really affected it at all.
And I totally agree with you. Like, and I think,
which is weird, like
which is weird. Yeah, it's such a different movie than other Nolan movies, because because you look at Nolan movies and they set you up with who's this character, they introduce the character, and then you're on kind of for a ride. In this movie, it doesn't do that. It like just jump cuts every single where, and you have to kind of pick the pieces up and put them together.
This is one of the first movies that I've seen where you could have dropped in halfway through the movie and still gotten what everyone else did.
Sure. And part of it's because for me, it really helped me just understanding the significance of this historical event. You know what I mean? and just understanding
and just the situation,
and just the situation and what happens, and I mean technically even knowing the ending to the movie, you know, helped me a lot. Like this was like, in all honesty, if you're watching this movie and you're like looking to be entertained, I don't know if you're gonna get that. But if you're looking, like for me, I looked at it almost like a documentary a little bit, Derek, which is kind of weird to say.
Yeah, without a documentary without like an over, you know,
without like a narrator.
A narrator,
yeah, exactly.
a narrator.
I don't know. Yeah, that's how I kind of saw it.
It's very interesting because when I left the movie, I didn't know what I thought about it.
Okay.
And some of the people that I had seen it with, they're like, "Oh man, the twist! You know, I didn't realize the twist till the end." I'm like, "What am I missing here? You know, like, did I miss something?"
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, the twist. And they're like, the different timelines. And I'm like, wait, is that a twist though? Like, and maybe it's because we've seen shows like Westworld or things like that where, you know, like you kind of jump into, but to me, the timeline thing, I was like, it still told the same story.
Yeah.
People were blown away by the timeline.
Really?
And I was like,
okay.
I didn't get that though, because I'm like, yeah, I understand. Like that's the way they're telling the story.
Right.
But people that I saw were just, I don't know. They just loved that twist of like, because they didn't know what was going on, and finally when it got clear to them what was happening, they just enjoyed it thoroughly. And I was kind of like, well, I think that was, you know, it was cool, I guess, but it didn't really, you know, sway me one way or the other. And that was the other thing, not knowing like characters. Like I can't tell you one of the I can only say actors' names, and generally I'm bad with names to begin with. But this movie, I'm like, I can't say so and so's name.
It had that,
and again, it's tough for me to think of a favorite part of the movie that was like that was awesome, because sadly we've been treated to movies like Saving Private Ryan, you know, where, you know, or even Hacksaw Ridge recently, where you're rooting for a person. And like you said, if you have a historical background, you're probably going to enjoy this movie more than maybe someone that's going in for an interesting emotional story. Right. I didn't get the emotion from it. I was attached to certain characters because of what they've previously done. Mostly Tom Hardy. But, you know, and I guess the One Direction kid with Harry Styles.
That's right. I was going to mention that. That's so funny.
He was pretty good.
Yeah. I didn't even know which one he was, to be honest with you.
Yeah, one of the good-looking young guys. I guess they're all good-looking young guys.
Those Brits.
Yeah, so I don't know. I left the movie just kind of. The music just did. There was that one part where it stopped, and that was like, it was such an interesting change. Man. There was one time in the movie where it went from this total minor key to it switched to a major, and that was like when Tom Hardy was like pulling the throttle and he's moving up, and it finally it's like, oh, something lifted from the crowd. You know, an hour and 20 minutes of hearing this very dominating piece. And then there was a time later on where the music kind of cuts out, and you're like, oh, thank you, that is really good.
Yeah.
And you know, I loved the end speech. Was it Harry Truman? Oh no, it was Churchill. It was a Churchill speech that they had. Yep. And I really like that. But if someone asked me from this movie, what was my favorite part, I would have a difficult time saying what that was.
Yeah. I can see that. I can
think of bigger moments and you know, right at the end, there's a moment that I don't want to spoil for the audience that I was like, oh man. And that was kind of cool. But I liked what I would tell people my favorite part of the movie was the crazy soundtrack and then the practical special effects. I really enjoyed seeing it look like actual boat sinking, and it like some of the things looked fantastic because it looked real. And you know, it's like they didn't do much green screen. That's what it looked like to me. And
right.
You know, I couldn't. Did you have a favorite? Did you have a part that really stood out to you?
Man, I think I'd have to agree with you. For favorite parts, that's so hard to see. It's so hard to say what my favorite part is, just because like you were saying, like there's so much going on in the movie that you're kind of just like, it's not one of those. I feel like it's not one of those movies you go into and you're like, all right, this is what's gonna happen, and I'm gonna come here for enjoyment. You know what I mean? Because it wasn't like that for me. Like my favorite part was the end, because not because it was the end, but because of the story and the way it unfolded and the way they shot it. And I guess my favorite parts were the background. You know what I mean? Like everything going on in the background of like the cinematography and the way in the writing and the way they told the story. And I liked how there wasn't much dialogue in the movie as well. I don't know if you noticed that, but there wasn't much
there really
dialogue.
wasn't. You're absolutely right.
Other than that civilian boat, that was like the most dialogue in the movie.
Exactly. And then the Churchill speech at the end. It felt like an hour and 40-minute trailer is what it felt like.
It was really short. I was really surprised how short it was because you've been so used to it.
It was short, like as far as time goes, but it felt like it was a longer movie because it was nonstop.
Okay. Yeah, that is true. For me, like though, I remember going in, I'm like, man, I hope I'm not here that long because I have to get back to my kids. And dude, like I was out. Like it felt like I was out the second I walked in. It was insane.
Yeah.
Like I remember going in at like I think the movie started at like 1 or 1:15 or something like that, and I was out by 3:10, and I was like, whoa, this is weird because like Nolan movies run like 3 hours long sometimes.
No, that's true, and it also helps when you show up late, right?
It also helps when you show up 5 minutes late. So.
No, but it really was a short movie. But it felt like that was a long trailer for a movie that was going to give you, like it's like this is the long extended trailer of Dunkirk. I was waiting because I wanted those character pieces. Now, the next day for junior high work camp, like there was good elements to it, like the 3 different storylines. When you're fighting on land and in the water and in the sky, and the 3 characters that encapsulated that. Like I was talking because the next day we spoke about just building virtue and how some of these kids that had, like we were talking about Blessed Chiara and now the new Saint Jose. I can't remember his last name, but he was a kid at 14, that got killed. He didn't renounce his faith. These were individuals that I was, comparing it to with this movie. I said like, each one of these, there's an element of sacrifice to each one of these storylines, and some of it is, sacrificing pride, sacrificing yourself, and just, sacrificing your time for others. And I told them that some of these decisions that some of these people made in this movie were really to say like, these moments weren't just made like they weren't cowards they weren't like heroes all the way through their life. I'm sorry. They weren't heroes just for 1 second. They were building up like these decisions, like Tom Hardy's character to, battle beyond all these odds that were stacked against him. He was an individual most likely that had practiced doing these things and being just really refined in his art and his work, where it was easy for him to make a decision at the end of what he should do rather than someone that's just thrown into a situation and they panic. Like all of these characters you can tell that they were virtuous people through their life. And it was easy for them to make these big decisions. And I feel like a lot of with saints, that is with them too, because a lot of the saints have been practicing it since they were kids. They had visions of like, I want to serve God, and they were practicing these things. And I really saw that aspect in the movie where it's like I can see that there is heroic natures to each one of these storylines. I just did not feel attached to it at all because I couldn't get into the characters. I was indifferent to them. I understood what they were saying for story-wise, but I just could not get into one of the characters because I didn't really care about them. And it felt like, I don't know, if the writers just were like, we're going to show an awesome story. We're not going to, I don't know, necessarily have the characters give you an awesome story. We're going to show you one. And
sure.
That just kind of affected me where I watched a review after I watched the movie and I couldn't think if I liked it or not. And I mean, when, like I said, you compare it to other previous war films, you as a history person, did you get more out of this than like the recent war movies that we've seen? Because you are a Nolan fan and you're a history buff. I'm curious on like compared to other movies like Hacksaw Ridge, We Were Soldiers, Thin Red Line. What is the other? Saving Private Ryan. Any of those? Like, how does this rank up for you?
I to be honest with you, I think I really enjoyed it because of the historical reference and based on this historical event that happened. And Hacksaw Ridge and Saving Private Ryan are awesome. They're totally awesome movies and they tell really great stories. But to be honest with you, like, I really enjoyed this movie in a different light than those movies. Like, I would put Hacksaw Ridge and Saving Private Ryan in a boat, and I would put this movie in a complete separate boat.
Whoa, you mean a boat that's like different or better?
Different.
Okay.
Sorry, different, not better. I don't know if I like. I mean, Saving Private Ryan, that's like the gold standard. Like, personally,
it really is. It's a shame that came out that long ago, where now everything has to be compared to that kind of film.
But again, I like the funny thing is like I didn't even compare it to that. You know what I mean? Like I would compare Hacksaw Ridge to Saving Private Ryan, but I would not compare those two movies to this movie or this movie to those movies.
Yeah.
Because it's just it told a war movie without telling a war movie technically. Like it was it to me it was about Saving Private Ryan was about, you know, survival and being heroic and being, you know, looking in the face of danger and just, you know, running towards danger. And, you know, same thing with Hacksaw Ridge, right? I mean, he literally runs toward danger to save people.
Yeah.
This movie is almost the opposite of those movies where you're looking at these men on a beach and they're stranded and they have no way to get home, and it's almost it's a little bit like Saving Private Ryan in terms of people have to rise up to, you know, come to the rescue, but at the same time they told it in a different light. I don't know, like I really liked it. Like this movie this movie to me didn't show the horrors of war like the other movies did.
Yeah.
Like, especially Hacksaw Ridge, how gory that movie was and really told you how much these people how in like really gruesome ways they died in war. But this movie didn't do that. You know what I mean? This movie was about survival and really the terror of war and really the consequences of what happened in France at the time, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and this is right in the vein of what you're talking about too. This was the first, I think, a first war movie that I've seen that's PG-13. And I'm curious on how that affected what I was seeing, because I wasn't horrified when I was watching this movie. Yeah, and I'm saying horrified in like a good way where I respect so many veterans that have gone and laid down their life and the ultimate sacrifice and what these young men have done. And when you compare it to be like, man, am I courageous enough to do something like that? This movie didn't bring that moment up for me. Whereas I think the R-rated movies were terrifying to me in a way, because Saving Private Ryan, you have, you know, the blood coming out, like, and you're missing limbs, and you know, you have these grown men that are like calling for their moms. And to me, that was devastating to hear, like, what, you know, and that was such a wake up call for me. And it's similar to watching The Passion of Christ, where I had walked as a child through these stations of the cross so many times and not thought of how physically agonizing it can be. When I saw Passion of Christ, it changed my respect for Jesus and what he had gone through. And it really, I don't know, it shook me to the point of where I respected my faith more, and it drew me deeper into it. The same thing, Saving Private Ryan was the same thing, where I'd be playing with those little army, you know, GI Joes, all this stuff, and we'd, you know, they'd be shooting each other and like, oh, war is cool. Then I see this movie and it changed my viewpoint of like, this is not cool. and those are the things that, and both of those movies are rated R, and this one's PG-13. Now they're totally doing different things, but I'm just curious if maybe I was comparing it to like a war movie that I was going to see where it's going to make me, like you had mentioned, the horrors of war. But I definitely could feel the PG-13 tone to it. You know, like there was that initial, one of my favorite shots was like that beach. Like I think when you walked into the theater or whatever, when the bombs are going off on the beach and the one guy is, you know, aiming his rifle and he's shooting at this plane, and you know, it's like to no avail. And then he gets, you know, it blows up and he flips and everything. Like that was a moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, that would suck to be on the beach and having just planes bomb you like that. But the rest of the movie, like there was one part where there's a possible drowning scene. Whether they drown or not, I'm not going to say, but that was kind of intense. But, you know, I left the movie feeling more confused about what I had seen. Whereas another movie like The Passion or whatever, it's like, wow, I feel deeper and closer to this event you know, and so I was, yeah, I just left, and it's still to this day. I think I need to see it again, John, to be honest, because I need to see it again because I feel like I missed something.
Well, I all the things you're saying, and I completely understand. I think you're justified in saying all these things, but to me, I felt like we had such a complete opposite experience. Where like those movies, you can see the horror and you can see the horror and the terror of war, right? But this movie, to me, like, I feel like we've had those movies before, so I know what horror looks like.
Yeah.
This movie, for the first time, made me feel what horror and terror looks like in war. Because you look at these guys and you look at these men, these young men, that are like basically losing hope. Like I think some of them even, like the dude like loses hope and he like goes into the water and you never see him again. You know, And you just see it on their faces. And don't get me wrong, I'm taking nothing away from previous war movies, like Saving Private Ryan and Hacksaw Ridge. I love those movies so much. Saving Private Ryan holds a very close, spot in my heart. But this movie, I don't know. Like, I felt, especially towards the end, I felt so much pride, and I felt so much, hope coming from that movie. Even though I already knew the ending, of just seeing everyone coming together, and it almost reminds me of humanity, what humanity is capable of. Like, whether you're civilian, whether you're someone in the army, or whether you're a Catholic or non-Catholic, atheist, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, if humanity just comes together, what we're capable of doing. Because, this isn't a spoiler, because you can read this in a history book, technically not in our history books. This is definitely in, like, a lot of British learning.
Yeah, British.
But to see these civilians and these regular people answer the call, so for anyone who doesn't know, the historical reference, or this historical event is, Nazi Germany and Hitler go into France. They take over France, and all these people are pushed up to the coast. All these are, they're just getting slaughtered, right? Like, Nazi Germany is slaughtering Britain. They're slaughtering, of course, the French, and they're getting pushed back up, all the way up to the coast, to the British Channel, and but then, of course, Hitler stops. He's like, I don't want to waste any tanks. I don't want to waste any more of my men. I'm just going to pick them off by the air, and we'll be done with it. Anyway, so Winston Churchill has a plan, and he's like, okay, I'm going to get people who are sea navigators and people who have boats to help out. And these people answer that call. And to me, it was about, I think you mentioned earlier, of course, a lot of these people, a lot of these men, a lot of these army people or military people, they practice virtue, and it's only in those moments where they can, because they've practiced virtue so much that they have the bravery to exercise that virtue, right, Derek? But for me, as I not only got that, but I also got I think one of the lines in the movie is the guy's like, we have a job to do, and no matter what, we have a job to do. And what I found that is not only in my, being American, but also being a Catholic and being a dad, that we have jobs to do, that sometimes, like, we don't want to do things that we know we have to do. You know what I mean? Whether they be small or big, right? Like, I don't want to change my kids' diapers half the time,
Yeah.
But I have a job to do. I don't want to get up in the morning and do morning offering, but I know I have to do, I know I have a job to do, and I just got that out the movie, and especially the end when they all came and they all kind of came together and what humanity is capable of. I really, really enjoyed that.
I think the cool aspect too was this: you feel like you've done something dishonorable, by surrendering or running away. Where these soldiers were put in such a bad spot where it's like, to them, survival looked cowardly, like they're running. But when you see, like you'd mentioned, that end, with Churchill's quote and what's going on, where there was, they're handing these bottles of beer through the train window and they're celebrating them, and to have the soldiers have that moment too was a really cool thing that I hadn't seen in a movie before, where you feel like you failed completely, and people are like, you know what, we don't look at you that way. You've made it out of like this hell. That was neat. And like you said about like the civilians with the boats, I did enjoy that. Right along the lines of what you're saying with like, you're a dad, you have a job to do, and this boat captain and and his son, were out there helping. He had knowledge about what these planes and which way they were going to turn, and he's like, get ready to turn the boat, whatever way. He had this knowledge, and it was cool to see him utilize that to kind of inspire his son. And then the way that story goes, I really loved how that went, because you're dealing with, before people knew about PTSD, that was a cool aspect to me, where he had I don't know, such mercy and understanding of what the soldiers go through, where he didn't want to give the soldier who was struggling like a harder time, and his son learned an important lesson through that. I did enjoy that aspect of it. But again, when you have another true story like Hacksaw Ridge, when you have this soldier that's not using weapons, it's like such an interesting thing, because you follow him, and it's probably easier to write a movie like that where you're following one person, and it's easier to get attached to that and maybe cry a little bit more, be horrified, because you're seeing that through the eyes of this one individual. But like I said, I need to see this movie again. Would your wife enjoy this movie? Because I'm trying to think if my wife would.
Man, I don't know. That's a good question, because my wife, she's sitting next to me. That's so funny. I don't know if she would enjoy this movie that much, because I feel like I feel like you have to be in the right mindset to watch this movie. Like what I would show her is I would show her like a historical video on Dunkirk and what it meant for the war, you know, because this was such, I don't know if people understand this, and I feel like everyone, you know, D-Day and Normandy really is the, you know, that's the memory really that you remember, you know, growing up
because it's more a victorious and heroic moment,
but but if you look at the way the war went, like if Nazi Germany and Hitler killed, like basically obliterated those soldiers, and they don't even get back to Britain, you know, D-Day might not ever happen, you know. And so for me, like I would just show her the historical reference and how important Dunkirk was to the war. And so but at the same time, that's like, you know what I mean? That's like, ooh, like probably not. So I would say she might, just because it's a great story and it really tells of awesome heroics in a different light than Hacksaw Ridge and Saving Private Ryan, right? Yeah. Like it's more of like you have to think about it and you have to just like experience it rather than it kind of spoon-fed to you. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. That's such an interesting question. I would say yes, but I'd have to like explain why this was so important, you know?
You know, I think one of it too is like I heard that you need to see this in 70 minutes. Now, granted, I didn't see it in the true IMAX. It was a giant screen, and it was 70 millimeter.
And I got cheated, Derek. Remember my story I told you?
Oh,
I had a big black bar at the top, so like it wasn't going all the way. It wasn't filling the whole entire screen. And then I had like those old film lines running across like the screen. I was like, what kind of theater is this? Yeah. It felt old school and it felt really cool, but I don't know. Maybe that's
maybe that helped maybe that was the thing.
Maybe
right?
that's the thing. Maybe that's why I
enjoyed
it
in the worst picture quality possible.
I'll give you my theater that I went to so you can see.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like I wasn't like I'm like this would have been fine watching it on DVD for me. Like the sound. You might not like the sound was just so good.
I feel like war movies you have to see in a big screen because of the grand scale of war movies, but I totally agree with you. Like if I
don't know, it felt like anything that was going on other than the plane scenes. I feel like when you're in the plane, then okay, I understand like having the wider area view, but like a lot of it is like we're trapped in the bottom of a boat, you know, or we're supposed to giving you a claustrophobic scene of like just soldiers all around you.
I don't know those scenes, yeah.
It
just depends. Yeah, I mean,
because I would tell my wife, like I told her actually, I was like, look, I don't, you know, I'm not gonna tell you to rush out to go see it because that's usually if there's a movie I really want to see and we'll watch it like and I'm like it's an awesome experience, you need to watch it in the theater, like I'll do like when we saw Gravity. When I saw Gravity, I came right back from the theater. I'm like, Bethany, go right now. I'll watch the kids. She's like, well, they're going to have to eat dinner. I'm like, I'll feed them. Just go. So she just went to the theater and watched the movie, and she had a great experience too, where it was like we wanted to talk about it, but I didn't want to have any time to delay. This one was like, I'll wait till it's on DVD.
Yeah. The funny thing is like I noticed like just being your friend for like, you know, a couple years now and just your scale is basically like 1 to go see it right now in theaters, Bethany. Like I love that. I love that, by the way.
No, that's true, right? That's the highest one is like stop what you're doing, go see it now. Yeah. It's only happened for a couple movies, but
yeah. So I guess final verdict, like must watch, skip, or wait for DVD.
I would say wait for DVD, watch on Netflix, but do it with the volume up. Like that's
you got to be in like a really dark. I feel like you know what? I would agree with you, Derek, just because like I feel like it's not one of those must-watch movies of the year. You know, I mean, we recently saw Spider-Man and Wonder Woman. I mean, those are awesome movies.
To be honest, I would rather watch those movies, and that makes me feel weird to even say that out like loud.
I don't think so, and I kind of agree with you. But I would say watch or wait for it to come on DVD, like especially at this point. You know, it's been a couple weeks now, like a month now since it's been out. But I would say watch it at night with the with the blinds off, with everything kind of closed door, everything, and turn your sound system up because it's definitely, I think it's definitely worth a watch.
I had a lot of people though, and that's where I'm confused. I had a lot of people saying like this is the most incredible movie I've ever seen, and they were just blown away by this movie.
Dude, it's that time thing, dude. You just didn't understand the time
I guess thing. I just didn't understand.
No, I totally agree with you though. I don't.
Did you have any friends that were like all over it like that?
I did, because a lot of my friends that I trust are like film buffs.
Okay.
So they watch it in kind of like the same kind of way that I watch, and don't get me wrong,
each frame is a piece of art.
Exactly. And to be honest with you, I like agree with most of their sentiments, but at the same time, like I wasn't blown away like a movie should blow me away, like Star Wars Episode 7, right? Like boom, blow me out of the water. Now, but it wasn't like that though, because I wasn't looking for that with this movie. If that makes sense. No,
that's good. It felt like you went in with the right mindset.
Sure.
You know. So, all right, cool. So I like how we have different thoughts on this movie.
Definitely.
You know, like I think overall, if you combine both of ours, it was an okay movie.
Yeah, it was a good movie. Yeah, definitely worth a watch.
Cool. Jumping into announcements.
Derek, first announcement.
First announcement.
This is your idea, right? You had this idea.
Yeah, and we want to see if anyone's interested in this too. We're going to be doing our Bad Catholic Dad's first ever fantasy football league, and you're invited to join us. To do that, if you just want to send us like a direct message, and like we can like send out the invites to the emails. We're just curious. If we don't have a lot of people that want to do it, that's fine. We know that fantasy football might take up a lot of people's time. I'm right offhand. I'm thinking like half point PPR.
Yeah. Okay. I never played half point. We'll figure it out. The rules.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
But it won't be too different from yours. It's not going to be anything crazy like a 2 tight end starter league with 2 QBs. It's not going to be anything crazy. But it'll be fun for Bad Catholic Dads to have some bragging rights.
Sure. Maybe it'll be we can throw in like a little prize at the end too.
Yeah. I think a prize would be good. So if you're interested in doing that,
we can't win the prize. We won't win the prize. Like if we win the prize, we'll give it to the first person who's not me or Derek or Derek.
I don't know. It depends on what the prize is.
Well,
if it's a Dunkirk DVD, then I'll definitely give it away to whoever wants that. No, just kidding.
Shots literally fired.
So Bad Catholic Dad's Fantasy Football. Cool. If you're interested, send us a direct message. We'll be putting it up on all of our social media spots. Definitely. Next announcement, John.
We are for the next episode. I wanted to get this out early just because it's been kind of crazy. So for anyone who doesn't remember, Bad Catholic Dad Squared, which is our second podcast for books, cinema, and digital, we are reviewing either a book or a movie but this month or next month for the month of September, we want to do video games. We want to do a video game. So I know we have a lot of bad Catholic dads out there who play video games. So Derek and I are going to come up with a list. We're going to throw it on Facebook and Twitter, and we're going to get your votes to see what video game you want us to play. And then we'll talk about it from a Catholic dad's perspective, because that's what we do on this podcast. On the second podcast, we kind of put our theological lens on, and we kind of just review a book, a movie, or a game. Derek, do you have any games you want to announce that you think the audience would enjoy either playing or at least hearing us talk about?
Yeah, I don't know. There was just all different kinds. Like we're up for like the bigger set pieces. If you're interested
I'm open to whatever. Like for me, I really want games that make you think about your life and about what's going on in your life, or games that really deal with more deeper thoughts like depression or religion even, which would be awesome. Yeah. So the games that I have, Derek, and I'm gonna put this on Twitter, and then of course, Derek, if you have any games, you can just throw them out there, and of course we'll put them on Twitter and everything. You guys can vote. I have Life is Strange, which is kind of this 5-episode episodic game about this teenage girl who has superpowers, but she kind of deals with high school drama. I think that's like pertinent because being a dad and everything. And then of course I have another game, and these are you've never played Life is Strange, Derek?
No, I've never.
I think these other two games you told me you played, but I think they would be awesome to talk about just because I've heard so many great things about. Speaking of Dunkirk, the game that I want to put out there is Valiant Hearts, which deals with World War I and kind of the dreary. World War I was not a fun war for anyone. But there's also some serious themes there. And then of course the last game I want to play that I'll put on the list that has to do with kind of deeper thoughts and deeper themes is Ori and the Blind Forest. I've heard a lot of awesome things about that, about like like purgatory and stuff like that. But so I'm excited to kind of hear about that and play that. So
I'd definitely be curious for the Little Nightmares game.
Ooh, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't played that one. That one because my kids saw some of the trailer and like, oh, Daddy, we want you to get that game, and then they saw how scary it got, and they're like, I don't want you to play that game. That's a possibility for me. Even if people want, like, there's other games, like just anything, man. I'm up for anything that, like, audience members. I'm up for BioShock to redo that one. That would be fun.
Infinite would be a good one because I think that has lots to do with religion, right? Like.
Yeah, they all handle religion.
Okay.
And, a lot of different themes in that, so that would be good.
We'll put it up. We'll put it up on Twitter.
Yeah,
Facebook.
we'll put
you
up
guys
a
vote.
list.
All right, next announcement, Derek, and this is a very exciting one.
Okay,
and we're kind of bribing our audience members here, but I am giving, or Bad Catholic Dads is giving away Wonder Woman on digital on August 29. It comes on August 29. We're giving away a Wonder Woman digital movie.
A nice giveaway.
So 2 ways to enter the giveaway. You can leave us a review on iTunes. We really want reviews because it really helps out the podcast. So if you leave us a review, and if you already left us a review, you're automatically entered. hopefully we can find you and get your information. But if you leave us a review from here until, I don't know, we'll set the deadline to like, the right before it, like maybe the day before, Monday, August 28th. So if you leave this review from here till Monday, August 28th, you get entered. Or if you become a patron on our Patreon at the $2 a month level, you get automatically entered with all the review people, and you get to be entered. It's a blind giveaway, so obviously we'll do it random and everything. So it's not like we're picking someone. We'll do all random. But at least you either leave us a review or become a patron, and then you'll be entered into a raffle for the giveaway. So this is Wonder Woman on digital. It sounds so weird to say. Is digital? Is that the right word? Digital, like.
Yeah, sure.
And then whatever your platform of choice, whether you want it on Xbox or PlayStation or iTunes, or I don't know what other platforms can you get digital movies on, Derek?
Yeah,
all that jazz. Whatever you want it on, we'll get it for you. And
you name it.
you name it.
Under a certain price range.
Yeah, you name it. We'll get it for you. And last but not least, speaking of Patreon, check out our Patreon page. I think there's some changes coming soon. We're gonna have some cool rewards and stuff like that to kind of get our patronage up. So check that out. And I think that's all I have. Where can you find us, Derek?
You can find us on SoundCloud. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Patreon. All of those, if you like search Google Play, iOS, all of those, just look up Bad Catholic Dads, and you'll be able to find us on any of those platforms.
Okay.
Any other spot that I'm missing here?
I think that's it.
No.
I hope they enjoyed the review.